Hello, class. It's the invisible teacher again. Now, first of all, I want to tell you that this morning I heard that people are now saying that the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake. Now, it is more absolutely more complicated than that, I feel, because the Dead Sea Scrolls could now look fake when in fact they're not. Okay, this metamorphic thing, I don't know whether we've been playing with change too much and things are changing too rapidly, too much, and too quickly for us to keep a hold on reality and for the past to stay stable as well as our future and the present. But yes, I believe that just because the Dead Sea Scrolls now look fake, they may not be. They may look modern now. This kind of thing has happened to me. I've noticed this kind of thing happen to me in the past. Okay, now um, I want to partly demonstrate this and partly share the angst with you that it is to do. I was going to go back to Wordsworth's London Bridge, Westminster Bridge, and compare it to a passage in Milton that I knew about and that my professor at York, one of my professors at York at the University of York, or York University as it was then, pointed out to us. He pointed it out to us, and I made a clear mark against that passage. And it was about the Thames and about smoke all over the Thames, around the Thames area, and so on. And it related at that time to a passage in Wordsworth, in the Prelude, where Wordsworth encounters that sort of thing when he goes to London as well. With Wordsworth, it would have been to do with the Industrial Revolution, but with Milton, it was hard to understand why he would have seen it then. Did he foresee it? Was he a seer in the old-fashioned sense? Although he was blind, was he like the man from the Greek myths and so on, and that T.S. Eliot mentions in The Wasteland? Right. Now, that's it. Yes, right. I bought a book from what is now York Explore Library, which was York Central Library. It was a book of Milton's poetry, including Paradise Lost. It's important, perhaps, to still remember that Milton did write other things as well as Paradise Lost. Now, this book, the library at that time admitted they were selling off from the British Library. Now, anyway, my mum has kindly kept the book on her bookshelves, and my father on their bookshelves for years and years and years. And my mum has just given it back to me to help with this project, or lent it back to me. Now, the problem is, I do know it is the same book, but nowhere can I find that mark which Professor Perry told us about the Thames, the bit where it mentions the Thames. Now, I don't know whether you have access to Paradise Lost and are able to find that passage. I would be interested and glad if you could. Now, to carry on, as yes, I do think that Samson Agonistes is a very important play. And but to return to Paradise Lost for now, um, to return to Paradise Lost, I just want to say that I am worried that it has changed somewhat. Now, what it now tells me is that Adam was barren. And Eve was worried that Adam and Eve would be childless. And actually, Eve did suggest that they kill themselves or that she killed herself. She was in complete despair. But Adam argues that they shouldn't do that, and that they should hope that God, if they, that God can be pitiful and show mercy. Right, I will read some of those that actual text in case you can't believe me. Um, to whom thus Eve, recovering heart, replied, Adam, by sad experiment I know how little weight my words with these can find. Found so erroneous, thence by just event found so unfortunate. Nevertheless, restored by thee, vile as I am, to place of new acceptance, hopeful to regain thy love, the sole contentment of my heart, living or dying from thee, I will not hide what thoughts in my inquiet breast arisen, tending to some relief of our extremes, or end, though sharp and sad, yet tolerable, as in our evils, and of easier choice. In care of our descent perplexes most, which must be borne to certain woe, devoured by death at last, and miserable it is to be others' cause of misery, our own begotten, and of our loins to bring into this cursed world a woeful race, that after wretched life must be at last food for so foul a monster. In thy power it lies, yet ere conception to prevent the race unblessed to being got, yet unbegot. Childless thou art, childless remain, so death shall be deceived his glut, and with us too be forced to satisfy his ravenous maw. But if thou judge it hard and difficult, conversing, looking, loving to abstain from love's due rites, nuptial embraces sweet, and with desire to languish without hope, before the present object languishing with like desire, would be misery and torment less than none of what we dread. Then both ourselves and seed at once to free from what we fear for both, let us make short, let us seek death, or he not found supply with our own hands his office on ourselves. Why stand we longer shivering under fears that show no end but death, and have the power of many ways to die, the shortest choosing, destruction with destruction to destroy. Now, so that Eve is so, she, well, yes, let's leave that for now. I will go now. I want to say that Milton, to put it back, we have potentially got this changing thing, but to put it back in historical context somewhat, Milton was, in writing his epic, trying to balance it against the epic of Homer, not the Odysseus, possibly, but the Iliad. He was writing in a time of civil war, and there would have been destruction and violence around. It was his wish to escape all that and to place a pastoral aspect, perhaps, on the situation, and maybe as well to mitigate somewhat himself the situation. I will show you a passage from that. That's now on page 189 of my copy. In Vallombrosa, where the Etrurian shades, high overarched in bower, or scattered sedge, afloat, when fierce winds Orion armed hath vexed the Red Sea coast, whose waves o'erthrew Busiris and his Memphian chivalry, while the perfidious hatred they pursued, the sojourners of Goshen, who beheld from safe shore their floating carcasses and broken chariot wheels, so thick bestrown, abject and lost lay these, covering the flood, under amazement of their hideous change. He called so loud, and all the hollow deep of hell resounded. So that's to place it in that. And now Blake had a theory that Milton was actually in sympathy with the devil, with Satan. I think that there is something to that. In some ways, I see Satan in Paradise Lost rather like David Leonard, the devil that used to and hopefully is still alive, and he's not a devil, he is a man as well, who played on the stage at York Theatre Royal for so many years. We see here, if I can find it still, so stretched out in length, oh, the arch fiend lay, chained on the burning lake, nor ever thence had risen or heaved his head, but that the will and high permission of all ruling heaven left him at large to his own dark designs, that with reiterated crimes, he might heap on himself damnation, while he sought evil unto others, and in rage might see how is all his malice served but to bring forth infinite goodness, grace and mercy shown on man by him seduced, but on himself treble confusion, wrath and vengeance poured. I mean, one of the questions that Milton is perhaps asking is if God is good, why did he create the devil? We'll go on to discuss that later on. And we also need to consider that when going back to the passage I told you about when Eve is so dejected and sad that she suggests that they kill themselves, and Adam goes on to say that he hopes God to intercede and that God will show mercy. One of the things that God is hopefully needing to help them with is to keep them from a terrible inclement weather pattern. That's it for now. I'll be with you again another day.